When you are setting forth a thought of something that you are wanting and feeling positive emotion, that positive emotion is communication that is projected to you from your inner being. And when you are thinking of something you are not wanting and feeling negative emotion, that negative emotion is communication that is projected to you from your inner being. And so this emotion that you feel is actual guidance or communication that comes forth from the inner part of you. Now, all physical beings that are now upon the earth are receiving, without exception, communication from their inner being in the form of emotion. But that communication can broaden far beyond a feeling of positive or negative emotion, which is essentially guidance of yes or no. It can broaden to clear and full communication regarding any subject that is important to you. You literally have access to infinite intelligence, you see. And so we are exuberant as we participate with physical man in this time of great awakening. For we know that not only will he have the delicious and glorious benefit of being physical in this time, but he will also have the enhancement of the non-physical part. We have not come forth to offer this knowledge that it may distract you from what you are about here in the physical. For what you are about here in this physical is very, very important. If it were not, you would not be here. You have not come forth to climb your way up a ladder of righteousness to greater exaltation. You have come here to create in this physical experience, utilizing the guidance that comes forth from within. And that is what this great awakening and blending is all about. A blended being, from our perspective, is one who is physically focused, yes, and creating through conscious physical thought here, and enjoying all the deliciousness of the physical experience, while he is at the same time acknowledging the guidance that comes forth from within. Guidance that ranges from communication through emotion all the way to clear and conscious communication. A blended being is that which you are witnessing as you are experiencing Esther as she speaks for Abraham.
Yes.
It is her conscious physical mechanism that is allowing the word, while that which is coming forth from within her is a combination of the knowledge that she has accumulated here in this physical world, as well as that which is being projected now. We are utilizing the vocabulary that she has accumulated, her knowledge of what is around her, while the knowledge of the laws is coming forth from inner, broader, wiser perspective. Not all physical beings who are blended will speak for Abraham or for someone like Abraham. But the example that we are stating is this. You are physical beings focused in a physical world, and you have access to much broader knowledge than most of you are allowing.
Thank you. Another subject that I hear many, many questions on, and I've heard it all my life, questions on this subject, and that has to do with relationships and agreements. And your take on that is just absolutely marvelous. Could you give us some brief ideas from it?
You have come forth primarily to be creator. In other words, to set forth your thought and emotion in order to draw unto you. But as you have noticed, you are here in a dimension, in a time and a place that you are sharing with many other physical beings, and that is because you are wanting also to be co-creator. Now, the thing about most relationships that keeps them from working in magnificent fashion is that you do not understand that you are first and foremost individual creator, and sometimes upon some topics you are co-creator. And so often as you come together in a relationship, you smother the freedom that is essential to your being by expecting the other to now think exactly as you do, want exactly as you do, be exactly as you are upon all subjects. And because you are a freedom-seeking being, then you cannot tolerate that sort of suppression of your freedom. Most relationships are better in the beginning than they are later, because in the beginning you are focused upon what you are wanting to see, and by law of attraction you are soliciting more of that from one another. But as time goes by, because most do not understand the power of law of attraction, they begin to look also for things that they do not want. And they begin to solicit more and more and more of those forth. Some relationships have been created out of a wanting for companionship. But the clear intention, or all of the things that are wanted, have not been clearly stated or clearly recognized. Sometimes until you have become part of a relationship that is not to your liking, you are not really clear about what it is you do like. We say sometimes it is a value to live in a house with not enough closets to identify you are wanting more closets. In this physical world, because so many are not understanding the laws, most do not believe that they can have everything exactly as they are wanting it to be. And so they say, well, I cannot have everything perfectly, so I will put up with this that I don't want. And so they attract relationships that satisfy some of their intentions, but not others. Later only to discover that those other intentions were very important to them, and the lack of having them satisfied leaves them feeling empty.
I hear a great deal of questions about parent-child relationships, particularly from the parents. Does this all fit in the same with parent-child relationships?
It does. Relationships, whether they are the relationship of parent and child, mates coming together, employee, employer, student, teacher, it matters not. The coming together of two creators or two or more creators is what co-creating is. Mm-hmm. What goes wrong in most cases is this. One begins to think about something. It starts with a little subtle thought. And then by law of attraction, the thought gets larger and larger and larger until there is a sort of emotional release about it. Literally a launching of a creation. And so then you go to your partner, whether it is your child or your employee or your mate, and you say, I have a great idea. And you begin to express your idea to the other, and you say, and this is your part. And usually the other is not excited about it in the way that you are, because the other has not been part of the launching of the creation. They came into it later. Unless you have been part of the first part of the creation, the first part of the deliberate creating, which is the launching of thought and having the emotional release, then you will not feel fulfilled or satisfied, and usually not motivated to action to participate within it. And so most parents tell their children what to do and then cannot understand why the child is not always eager to do it. Now sometimes the desire for harmony or the desire for approval is strong enough that the other one will do whatever the other one wants them to do, even if they have not been part of the inspiring launching of the creation. But we are wanting you to understand that if you would communicate more fully with one another, if you would launch more of your creations together, rather than launching them singularly and then imposing them upon one another, you would have much more success in your relationships. Wanting is the beginning of all deliberate creating, and if the other has not been inspired to want it, they will never participate in joy. And we say they should not. There should never be action that is not in joy. And so you can beat them up, you can set great rules and restrictions, you can offer your disapproval all you want, but you cannot inspire them to joyful action unless you let them be part of the launching of the creation.
Abraham, through my lifetime, I've heard great distress of people because of a lack of material things. I've heard distress from people from a lack of harmonious relationships. But the most severe distress that I hear from people is when it's a lack of bodily conditions that please them. And your tape on bodily conditions, I think, is just absolutely spectacular. Would you kind of do some highlights from that from us?
The reason you hear more about the condition of the body than any other subject is because everyone you know has one. And they are very close to them. In other words, when your toe is throbbing, it has your full attention and it affects every aspect of your life experience. You can sometimes take your focus from another part of your life experience, but it is not easy to take your focus from that which your focus comes through. There is not a physical apparatus, no matter what the state of it, that cannot be altered to the state that is preferred. In other words, no matter how sick a body is, it can achieve perfect health. No matter how fat a body is, if it is wanting to be thinner, it can be. There is not a state that cannot be altered to be something else. But the attention must be taken from what is and put upon what is preferred in order to create what is preferred. And that is the hardest thing for those who are experiencing a state of being that is not to their liking to understand. For they are so focused upon what is, and that they continue to recreate, add more unto what is. They are magnets attracting unto that which they are giving their attention to. When we say, if you feel sick, you cannot attract health. If you feel fat, you cannot attract thin. Some say, then I'm stuck here forever in this undesirable situation. And we say, not at all. Not if you can take your attention from what is and put it upon what you are wanting instead. That is the key.
The next subjects are subjects that I hear general questions about, not a whole lot, but they are so important to the people who do ask them that I have asked you to do these particular subjects. The next one is called Christ consciousness. Would you touch on that for us, please?
As we are observing physical man today, no matter what part of the world he is living upon, we have noticed that for the most part, he spends most of his life experience looking for that set of rules against which he can pattern or compare his own life experience. And then he spends the rest of his life trying to hammer a square peg into a round hole, wondering why he cannot find happiness and joy within those rules. Man is, for the most part, looking outside of himself for that which is standard, or that which is truth, or that which is right. And in this world of great diversity, that can bring so much discontent because there are so many rules to choose from, you see. That which he seeks is not a set of rules that is outside of him. It is a guidance system that comes forth from within him. And as we watch physical man in this time, seeking the wisdom that was offered by that one, we have noticed that the physical man limits himself only to that which he can find in the books that have been translated again and again, in the books that have been edited and added unto, in the books that no longer say that which was said by the great one that they revere. And so what we are encouraging is, rather than looking through the relics of old, that all physical beings look inside themselves, that they speak with the Christ that lives today, not only with the one that lived 2,000 years ago. For it is our absolute knowing that there is not a being upon the earth that does not have access to the knowledge that comes forth from within. Now, whether he calls it Christ consciousness, or whether he refers to it as the consciousness of some other great being, it matters not. For the same consciousness has been called by many different names, you see. What is important is that somehow he accesses that truth that comes forth from within.